And then we go and start reading the actual text. We do things with pictures, which I brought a picture to show you, which might get you a little crazy. Let's see. Okay. So really, I wanted to say that I really spent a lot of time on pre-reading, and especially with my students, because of the kind of kids they are. So here's a little sample. This is a little anticipatory activity. I'd like you to look at those words: eggs, pregnancy, gangrene, New England, roundup, plainswoman, fear, chivalry, finger, homesickness, smitten, kick, mortification. Does anybody know the story? Okay, somebody tell me what they think this could be about. First of all, is there a word on there that you don't know? That's what I would ask the kids, because then I would be like, okay, you need to go to the dictionary. Does everybody know mortification? And I would say that to the kids, mortification. They'd be like, we don't know. And so I'd say, you know, what does it look like? What does it sound like? And they'd say, well, mortician. So I said, well, what does a mortician do? Well, what's with dead people? So, you know, we would just kind of figure that all out. And then we'd have to do, usually we'd have to talk about chivalry. Because nobody knows what that is. No. but the real lovely thing is gangrene. And so, but anyways, can somebody just tell me a story? Tell me, Simone, you do it. Just tell me just tell me a story with some of those words.
There's a young lady from New England who was scared of leaving the New England area. So she stayed and ultimately fell in love with a chivalrous young man who coincidentally was missing a finger. But he got a new job and they had to leave the New England area, and she got really homesick. But in the process of her husband trying to make her feel better about being away from home, she ended up pregnant. Took care of the homesickness, yeah. And
rediscovered things.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm losing it on the gangrene and the eggs and mortification.
That's what happened to his finger.
That's do gangrene. But while she was pregnant, she developed a fixation with eggs. Every morning she had to eat them. And she gave birth to a beautiful little girl who grew up and loved to kick things.
I think you're good.
Okay.
Let me tell you how close you came to the real story.
Okay.
So the real story, this is the plainswoman, which ordinarily is not a sexy story. It's the story that they use to model strategic reading at the beginning of school. It's really not, I hated the story the first year I taught it, and then I said, I got to do something where everybody likes the story. So it is about a woman who is from New England. She marries a guy who is a cowboy, and he takes her out west. And she realizes after a while that she's pregnant. She doesn't tell him she's pregnant, and he goes off on the roundup. He's a cowboy, whatever, and he's gone for a long time. He leaves her there with a hired hand, his name is Plenty, who has been hiding the fact that he has gangrene. And finally he comes to her and he says, I can't deal with this anymore, because by this time it's black. And he asked her to cut off his finger. So I'm telling you the story, but I wouldn't have told the whole story. Well, I didn't tell you the whole story yet, but this is what I would ask the kids after we would sort of make up our own story. Would you be able to cut off somebody else's finger? Why not? Would you cut off your own finger? Oh my God, you should hear the responses to this. Well, then by this time we're all kind of jazzed up to figure out what's going on, and they talk about, you know, maybe if it was to save somebody, if it was to save my life. And so then we talk about gangrene. And we, oh my gosh, this gets crazy. But we talk about the fact that if you don't cut it off, then you lose the limb. Well, at this point, when we read the story, then we know what we're working with, because we know why she eventually, the plainswoman eventually does cut off his finger, because she's the only one out there for miles around, and she cuts his finger off. So then they get like all excited about the story. So, okay, look at this one. This is another anticipation. It's a different story. Most women, well, you would just say true or false. Most women want a man to take care of them so they can sit and watch television or shop all day. Social status is everything, and we would have to, before we did this, we would talk about what status is. Material things like expensive jewelry will make people like you. The popular people are more important than the average people at your school. And we would do something like this, and we'd talk about it, let the kids talk about it. And this is does anybody have any idea what story this could be? Yes, Penny girl. The necklace. It's the necklace. Do you all know that story? This is the necklace. It's a short story by Guy de Maupassant, and it's a 100-year-old story. So you have to make that. How are you going to make that interesting? It's 100 years old, and so if we talk a lot about status and about the fact that this woman did not she was poor. She didn't want to be poor, and she was very annoyed about it. And her husband comes home. She's married to a clerk. It takes place in Paris. And he comes home and he says, honey, I have an invitation for you. And she's like, oh, give it to someone else. I have nothing to wear. And he says, well, I did everything I could to get this invitation for you. What? I have nothing to wear. And the worst thing that could happen is to be a pauper among wealthy people, to look like a pauper. And she says to look like a pauper, not be a pauper, because she was a pauper. But he says, well, okay, what do you want? So she says, well, I'd like to buy a new dress. And he says, well, how much will it cost? And she says, 450 francs. Well, she knew he had 450 francs he had been saving. And so he gives it to her. She goes out and she buys this beautiful dress. And then 3 days later, she's miserable. And he's like, what's wrong with you? And she says, I have this dress, but I have no jewelry. I'm not going. So he's mad. And he says, look, call your friend. He's got a rich friend, call your friend. So she calls the friend, and she goes over and borrows a necklace from the friend. She says, I just want this necklace. She wears it at the ball, and what do you think happens? She loses it. She comes out, and he's trying to put her wrap on. Some kind of confusion happens, and she loses it. She gets home, and she's taking the wrap off, and she goes, ah, I lost the necklace. And the kids are like, she lost the necklace. And I said, so what should she do? And then we talk about what she should do, because what happens is that kind of gives us a foreshadowing to the theme of the story. And her husband says, write your friend a note, you'll give us some time, and we'll go look for it or replace it or whatever. Does anybody know what happens at the end of the story? Well, she doesn't find the necklace. They look everywhere. She doesn't find the necklace. And she decides she's going to replace it. Well, he decides they're going to replace it. And they take the box that the necklace came in, and they take it to the jeweler. And the jeweler says, I sold that box, but I didn't sell the necklace. And I say to the kids, what does that say to you? What does that tell you? And they're like, I don't know. And so, but we go back to that, because that's a clue that there's something kind of funky going on with the necklace. So they find one and they go, oh, it matches perfectly. It's a perfect match, but it's cost 40,000 francs, whatever that means. I don't know. It's a lot more than what they had. I don't know. So they replace the necklace.
It's 100 times the cost of the dress.
Of the dress. Oh, good math person. So they take the necklace back to Madame Forestier. She doesn't open the box. She just says, you should have brought it back sooner. She doesn't open the box. And I say to the kids, there's a reason why she doesn't open the box. So they have to work to pay this money back. 10 years they worked. And prior to the working, this woman didn't work at all. She just sort of sat around. Even when the necklace was lost, she sat around while her husband looked for the necklace. But for 10 years they worked to make this money up. They borrowed, they begged, they stole. She turns into this ugly, woman all raggedy, and then 10 years later she sees Madame Forestier. Madame Forestier is still beautiful. And Madame Forestier is walking along, and she says, so Madame Lucelle is the woman. She says, hey, hey! And she says, why are you talking to me? Madame Forestier says, why are you talking to me? I don't know who you are. And she says, I'm Lucelle. And she says, oh, what happened to you? And she says, I've been working for 10 years just because of you, because I lost that necklace and I had to pay it back. And she says, oh my dear. What did she tell her?
Fake.
It was fake. It was fake. And so we talk about, whoa, what happens when you don't tell the truth? What could she have done? You know, that kind of stuff. But anyway, okay, sorry.